When we go to Nitmiluk, we call out to our ancestors, let them know that we're there. And we can feel through wind. And, we just feel like crying, and it's so wonderful,
It's one of the Northern Territory's great tourist attractions. Known by many as Katherine Gorge, the traditional owners of the land, the Jawoyn, call it Nitmiluk. But 20 years ago, this ancient, peaceful place was at the centre of a very public battle for ownership.
There were street demonstrations by various groups called, One Law, One Nation and Rights for Whites. There were KKK cartoons sort of in the street and so on, and one of the traditional owners, Sandy Barraway, had shots fired over his head one evening after giving evidence. So it was a very hairy town for a while there.
We've lost Ayers Rock, we've lost Kakadu, and here goes Katherine Gorge, presumably. No, it's not on.
Many people have worried that the Jawoyn were trying to take the gorge away. I don't know why we were supposed to take it.
The local Jawoyn people claimed ownership of the gorge as part of their traditional lands. The argument would go on for a decade and polarise the town of Katherine.
I reckon it should be for everyone, not just the Aboriginals, but for the whole community.
Can we ask you how you feel about the Jawoyn land claim on the gorge and the possibility of the gorge?
I think it's a heap of crap.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
They got no right to it.
At times the battle got ugly, and it's a time many Aboriginal people remember but don't care to revisit.
They were driving in, putting shining spotlight and firing shots, so it wasn't good at that time, and I've experienced many things along the way during the land claims.
Jim Forscott was Katherine Mayor back then. Today he still lives in the town. He was involved in the protests 20 years ago and was angry at the thought the gorge would be handed over.
When they had the gorge claim was brought on, that's what I was saying. You're going to divide this community because we have to live together and work together and plan together as a people. Well, all of a sudden you've got all these Aboriginal organisations running off doing their own things and not involving the community per se.
But the federal government felt differently. For many, Prime Minister Bob Hawke's visit signalled the Jawoyn would win.
To properly celebrate in 1988, we must recognise as non-Aborigines the obligations and the commitments we have to them.
2 years later, the Territory government signed over Nitmiluk, then leased it straight back.
The agreement over Nitmiluk was the first time the Northern Territory government of the day had decided to negotiate and sit down with traditional owners to get a really good outcome for all.
It was new groundbreaking negotiations for sure, but we had a duty to ensure that the best deal was done for all parties, including the Aboriginal people.
We had that big celebration when they won back the land. When they said, we won back the land, so it's celebration for all of us to go to Nitmiluk.
20 years on, tours down the gorge are part of a thriving Jawoyn-owned business. About 240,000 tourists visit every year.
We've been held up as a model for other groups to emulate. So in a way we're leading the way in how to run a park successfully, but also how to set up and run an economic business successfully as well.
As we make our way up through to the end of the first gorge, we're going to do a walk over to the second gorge. Now, it's about a 500 to 600 metre walk.
The park's managed through a joint agreement between the Territory Government and the Jawoyn Association, which represents the traditional owners. Employment is a big part of it.
It's a good job. So first started off a bit scratchy, but got used to it, and yeah, I don't reckon I'll be able to leave.
But melding a modern tourism business with ancient cultural beliefs hasn't always been easy. The move to get better access for boats has been controversial.
There were times that we've been pressured to remove rocks from within the river, and this is where traditional owners, especially the elders, came very strongly that we can't really move rocks from within the river.
Tomorrow, the Jawoyn people will celebrate 20 years of ownership of the area, but it's a day some won't be celebrating. Jim Forscott says the Jawoyn Association has had success, but maintains the government's decision was divisive.
We've got no closure now here, so the big chief minister of the day turns around and does a deal. I'm not going to listen to what all you mob have been arguing and fighting and talking about.
But for the Jawoyn, this is a success story.
We didn't know whether it was going to work or it wasn't going to work. It's worked very well, as it turns out.
And Mum said, be proud that we're winning the land back, and it's going to go on and on. Teach your kid and their kid. And that's what we're doing today.